Parental rights is called a fundamental right. Unfortunately, the importance of that expression is not sufficiently recognized.
We wanted to pass on to our children our Christian faith, our biblical values and standards. And that cannot be done in the public school anymore.
Homeschoolers want to direct and raise their children with respect to their worldviews. If the state encroaches upon those and insists that parents raise up their children in a government school, a secular government school, then we are going to wring the last remnants of Christianity out of our culture, which will be a disaster.
Making the decision is the hardest part. Making the decision to go against what is known, a known thing for everybody.
You can't possibly educate them. You don't have a teaching degree. A lot of times they just perceive it as bad, that you're not capable of being able to do that.
The worldview of the bureaucracies such as CPS are totally antithetical to my Christian beliefs. And I could see that the state was encroaching upon parental authority to the point that I feared that someday they would have total control over people's children.
I was raising my 4 grandkids at the time, and my grandson was coming home concerned about people approaching him, wanting him to buy stuff out of their backpack, and what it was drugs. He didn't know how to handle that, and of course some kids don't like to be told no, and then start getting picked on about it and stuff. And went to a school counselor about it, and it didn't stop, it continued. And finally my husband said, you know, you've been talking about homeschooling them, why don't we just do it now? We joined the coalition, and then they guided me and informed me on how to properly withdraw the children, you know, legally. And so I followed it to the T. But I would get horrible phone calls from different teachers, the principal, to the point that I'd get 2 or 3 a day. They wanted me to come down and sign papers and fill out forms and do stuff like that. And I kept telling them, well, you know, just submit in writing, and I will be glad to, you know, do whatever you ask, but I need it in writing. And so I never did get anything in writing, but I would get horrible phone calls. The truant officer, he threatened to put me in jail if I did not comply. Even came to my door and knocked on the door, him and a constable, and told me that they needed to physically see the children and the curriculum that they were studying, or I would be arrested. I decided to call Mr. Lambert, and then he got on the phone with the constable. And at that point, everything became really cool because the constable was just going, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, okay. And then they hung up. He stood up and said he was leaving. And I was like, okay, I wonder what happened, you know. I was very relieved. I don't know what we would have done without his help because it was just becoming a horrible situation. He wrote them a letter, the school district, the constable, you know, he covered everything. I was just thrilled at the way he handled that. And they did leave us alone after that. Never heard from anyone at all. Not one call, not one knock at the door, nothing after that.
I moved to Texas in 1980. Was given an angel disguised as a little girl that I got to parent. Her name is Maddie. On the strength of Granddad swearing out an affidavit of one and only one thing, that he believed that I would not let Maddie go to her own mother's funeral. He had gotten the judge that I'm struggling against now to issue a temporary restraining order and take all my time of custody away from me. To really understand the whole story, it'd be necessary to go back when I was surprised with an announcement that I was going to be subject to a so-called no-fault divorce, in which a child essentially became indistinguishable from a ward of the state, even though neither parent had ever mistreated the child, and neither parent was saying in any legal filings that the other parent had mistreated the child or was a danger to the child in any way. So we'd come home from church and we'd finish lunch. The space underneath the bunk bed sheet kind of turned into a clubhouse, as she put it. She told me that she was going to be playing Pokemon, and you know, she said, "Say goodbye to me, Daddy." A knock came at the door, and there were 3 armed men, police officers. They showed me what was called a writ of attachment, ordering the removal of Maddie. I then opposed my nominal opponents, who are the grandparents, and in my view, our real opponents, which is the family law interest that is kind of dug into this in court for 2 years, and then, God be praised, Texas Homeschool Coalition kind of came riding in as I was about out of bullets, and hired a couple of attorneys who performed heroically, and the net result was, about 6 months ago, Maddie was returned to me as a result of an 11-to-1 jury verdict. You know, my case is simply a rather dramatic example of a larger general problem, and the larger general problem is way too activist judiciary, way too activist government in general. And thank God THSC has got its mind, you know, right on this subject. And I personally am incredibly grateful for what it has done for me and my family.
There's a lot of benefits to it, but as a parent or a grandparent, I feel that if nothing else, just for the legal backing, it's tremendous. I mean, I actually saw it happen. You know, I was told this, you know, it tells you all that they do, but you always think, well, you know, but it actually happened to us, and they actually were there, and they were Johnny on the spot.
I believe that without Texas Homeschool Coalition, that we would see civil government making greater strides in eroding parental rights.
It's really easy to invade one home at a time. By protecting your fundamental rights, I'm protecting mine. Praise God, THSC gets it.
Well, I support it 100% because I feel like they have made a big difference. I can't imagine not being a member.